teachers of Reddit, what was the most annoying thing you ever had to deal with in class? Kids using ruler or any other object to reflect light onto the board or you face. It's just irritating, but they act like chimps who have discovered fire and giggle like there will never be anything funnier. I love my job, though. Edit. Enjoyed the reading your responses, and, for those who asked, I within a high school in the UK. Sothans 11, 16. One kid in my class figured out how to turn the projector on/off using an app on his phone. That poor teacher never knew which one of us it was. I had a student years ago named Marco. Marco has Tourette's and his tics were usually calling out "mom", "Lily", his sister, and most often his own name. Try teaching algebra when you hear Marco. And, without fail, a few kids yell "Polo" all year long. Note, only really annoying for me. Marco thought the exchange was hilarious and was quite the popular kid. Inability to fill in the attendance register 30 in class, only 27 names on register. Who hasn't filled in their name? We all have no you haven't. Who hasn't filled it in? Silence. Start asking individually until register is finally filled in. Amazing how people will argue that they have filled in their name when they haven't. The principal, easily the most annoying thing. The first school I worked at, the principal would go to every classroom every day, sometimes multiple times per day. He and the vice principal tried to micromanage every aspect of teachers' classrooms. All it did was disrupt the flow of the class and piss off both my students and me on a daily basis. Yes, this is what we are going through right now at my school. The worst part is that our principal doesn't know what he's doing. It's awful. Edit. This is a man who is friends with many people who help each other move up. This is his first year at my school. My school is a highly desired school for admins who want to move up. It's like they are using us as a step on a ladder. It has always been a high performing school that adapted well to changing principals every 2 to 3 years. His superiors are known to be unethical also. They are all friends. He even makes friends with the union people. I'm in one of the largest districts in the US. University level, so I'm not sure if this counts, but he would come to class and watch television shows on his laptop. I don't have an attendance requirement. I asked him to please just watch them outside instead of coming to class. He said he was very sorry and would not do it again. After that, he was still pretty clearly watching shows in class on his laptop, with the sound down, but would click away anytime I came near. I don't understand. My mom taught middle school kids with high functioning autism for a decade. For her it was a toss-up between the boy who wouldn't stop masturbating in class and the girl who refused to wear pads during her period and just bled all over chairs. Edit. To answer the same questions, the boy wasn't just whipping his junk out in class, he did it through his pants or through the pockets. They managed to curb the behavior by banning him from wearing sweat pants and giving him safe objects to fidget with, because I think it was a fidget habit for him. A fidget cube would have gone a long way to helping, I'm sure, but this was 13 plus years ago. Chronic masturbating is definitely really common in autistic kids. It's just that most of them aren't this dedicated. The girl hated wearing pads because of sensory defensiveness, which is common in autistic kids. I sort of understood where she was coming from, a little bit. Pads feel like diapers when you're not used to them, even when you're neurotypical. If you have sensory issues, I'm sure it's so much worse. At first her mom kept her home on her period, then eventually just sent her to school with a cushion and a towel to sit on to avoid ruining school property. Eventually she was pulled out of school and sent elsewhere. She was pretty bright and academically did well, but she was some distance beyond socially inept and clearly needed help. These two were unusual. Most kids weren't quite this bad, just a bit odd. Parents who ask why I've not taught their 2-year-old to read. Dude, if they were ready and we had the staff to sit one-on-one to teach them, I'd love to, but I'm too busy changing them, cleaning and doing pointless paperwork. There is a lot more to learning to read than sitting a kid down and trying to shove books down their throats. Also, revenge poopers. Little Johnny got mad because I didn't let him put the Lego up his nose or keep hitting Sally. He goes and poops on the floor and waits for me to find it. I'm a computer science teacher. This is important as my students usually had access to a computer. One student likes to be hated by the other students, so he found an online tone generator and set it to a frequency that older people wouldn't be able to hear, but it would massively annoy his classmates. Thankfully, I'm not particularly old and have fairly tuned in hearing from a background in audio engineering, so I could just mute his computer. The most annoying part is that if he put as much effort into his work as he did into creative ways to piss people off, he could do really well. Former primary and secondary school teacher here based in the UK. My vote goes towards incompetent or robotic senior management. Also, their policies, making you do reports during holidays. Except it's worse, because they open the system a week or so before said holiday, meaning technically they are not making you do them in the holidays. Not employing cover supervisors, so you end up using your free period to cover the lessons of your absent colleagues, thereby building resentment towards them. Not being allowed to sit down at all during lessons. Spontaneously sticking their head in the classroom to see if you need any support. See if you're sitting down. Abuse of the term support. I'm sure many more will be added to this list. Edit. As this is taking off, I thought I'd add a couple more thanks to inspiring replies. Business people running schools. Overuse of business language such as rigor, performance, review, oversight, synergy, added value and all the other wank words many of us left businesses to get away from. Surveillance cameras in the classroom for everyone's protection. I teach English in a Chinese kindergarten, nursery. Annoying may be a tad strong, but it is unfortunately inconvenient and counterproductive when the local teacher is overeager. Some are taking an active part in the class, which is great, but oftentimes they step in to correct the kids, and do so incorrectly, pronunciation particularly. Also due to the different teaching approach, and I guess impatience, they tend to push the kid and stress them out, to give an answer without giving enough time to think and come up with something. To elaborate on the second point, I'd rather the kid gave me any answer by themselves, however incorrect, so that we can correct it together than the teacher pushing or giving the answer and destroying the kid's confidence in the process. Parents. Not always in class, necessarily, but my district has a bring your parent to school day which is not supposed to be an opportunity for parents to critique teachers, but definitely ends up that way for some of us. This year, at the end of class, a parent came up to me and told me that my class was pretty disorderly, even though it was the best they'd behaved all year. Mind you, this was a class of mainly freshman boys, and that she didn't like how many times her own son got up to sharpen his pencil. Oh, okay. Thanks. The same parent told my colleague that he should have students who wanted to learn sit on one side of the room, and have students who didn't want to learn sit on the other, and then, of course, only teach the kids who wanted to learn. The irony in that suggestion was that her son would be on the doesn't want to learn side, but, as public educators, we are not allowed to say anything. Just smile and nod, smile and nod. Just how much of a danger small children are to themselves and others. We've got to catalog every playground injury, which while understandable in theory, is actually incredibly time consuming. And the kids have been taught to find a grown-up for everything, so one minute you'll be applying ice to someone who ran into a post, and then filing in the same forms for the kid who wanted a band-aid because they have a hangnail. Once during a year 10th maths class I was teaching, there was a really bad smell. It smelled like poop. At first I thought maybe someone had just farted, but it was much stronger than that. The students started to move away from the smell, and it turned out they were all moving away from one student. It turned out that one of the students in the class struggled from incontinence, and had actually pooped his pants during my maths class. I never thought that I would have to deal with that considering I only teach senior high school students. There's a requirement in New York of how much seat time you have to pass certain classes. Like you need 10th number of labs to take the science regents, or whatever. Some dumbest parents and students use all their sick days, let's say they get 14 before truant/failing, when they don't feel like coming to school. By February they are usually cutting it close, and come every day. The annoying part? They come sick all the damn time. I've had kids go to the ER with the flu at night, show up to school with a mask, and 103 fever the next morning. Or they have some vomiting bug, and jump up take the trash can, and bolt in the middle of my class. Or they can't see with pink eye in both eyes. Or they blow their nose/sniffle every 30 seconds. The worst part is the disruption then infecting everyone else. If you try to send them out they freak out, and parents call saying the school is out to get their kid, and threatens to pull them out so they count as a dropout. Schools get flagged by the state for dropout rates. Other than that, it's just when kids decide to act all tough and try to tell you off. About once every 4 to 5 years I get one who decides they are going to try to be cool and put me in my place. Edit. If you have an actual doctor's note you get free private tutoring at a certain point from teachers at your house. So chronic conditions are totally fine and not an absence problem. Edit 2. I'd also like to point out schools and teachers are graded on how effective they are based on state tests. That's likely a reason why missing too many days is automatically a fail/issue.